Have you ever stopped and wondered why you're aware right now? Not what you're thinking, but the fact that you're thinking at all. And then asked yourself something even stranger. What if awareness isn't just a human thing? We tend to assume consciousness belongs to us, maybe to animals, maybe to a few intelligent creatures, but always as something rare, something special, something that only appears once matter gets complicated enough. But when scientists started studying consciousness more closely, they ran into a problem. There's no clear point where awareness suddenly switches on. No single cell creates it. No single neuron controls it. No single moment where matter becomes experience. Instead, consciousness seems to slowly emerge from how things are connected. And that raises a very uncomfortable question. If awareness comes from connection and complexity, why would it only happen in human brains? Humans have been asking questions like this for a very long time. Ancient cultures often believed that nature itself had some form of awareness. Not human awareness, but something alive and responsive. Rivers were respected. Stars were watched closely. The world felt less empty. Modern science pushed those ideas aside and focused on what could be measured. And for a long time, that worked well. We learned how the brain processes information, how neurons fire, how chemicals affect mood and behavior. But even with all of that knowledge, one thing still doesn't fully make sense. Why does any of this feel like something? Why isn't the brain just processing information in silence, like a machine running in the dark? Neuroscience shows us that consciousness doesn't sit in one place. There isn't a center of awareness you could point to. Instead, experience seems to come from many parts of the brain working together at the same time. Different regions share information. They influence each other. They form a network. When that network is damaged or disconnected, consciousness changes. When it becomes more connected, experience becomes richer. That discovery has led some scientists and philosophers to look at consciousness differently. Instead of asking how the brain creates awareness, they ask a more basic question. What if awareness didn't start with brains at all? This is where an idea called Panpsychism comes in. Panpsychism sounds extreme, but the core idea is actually simple. It suggests that consciousness is not something that suddenly appears in complex brains. Instead, it suggests that very basic forms of experience exist everywhere, even in the smallest pieces of matter. This doesn't mean rocks have thoughts, it doesn't mean tables have feelings, it doesn't mean everything is secretly thinking. What it suggests is much quieter. That the building blocks of experience may exist at a very basic level, long before minds appear. To understand this, it helps to think in terms of scale. A single atom doesn't think, it doesn't remember, it doesn't plan. But panpsychism suggests it might have something like a tiny spark of experience. Not awareness as we know it, just the most basic form of being. As atoms combine into molecules and molecules combine into larger systems, these tiny bits of experience could combine too. As systems become more organized, experience becomes richer. In this view, a human mind is not a sudden miracle. It's the result of billions of tiny components interacting in an extremely complex way. This idea tries to solve a big problem known as the hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem asks why physical processes feel like anything at all, why brain activity creates experiences like pain, color, emotion, or a sense of self. Panpsychism avoids that problem by changing where consciousness sits in the story. Instead of appearing at the end, it's placed at the beginning. Matter doesn't create experience from nothing. Experience is already part of matter, and brains organize it. That might sound strange, but another theory approaches the same question from a more structured angle. It's called Integrated Information Theory, or IIT. Integrated Information Theory starts with a simple idea. Consciousness depends on how much information a system has and how tightly that information is connected. Information alone isn't enough. What matters is integration. Integration means that the parts of a system influence each other deeply. You can't split the system into pieces without losing something important. The human brain fits this description well. Billions of neurons are connected in loops. Activity in one area affects many others. Information flows back and forth. The system works as a whole. Under IIT, this level of integration creates a rich conscious experience. Now compare that to something simple. A light switch has information. It's either on or off. But its parts don't influence each other in meaningful ways. There's no integration. So under IIT, it has almost no consciousness. A thermostat reacts to temperature, but it doesn't combine information across many parts. Its internal structure is simple. Again, almost no experience. This leads to an important idea. Consciousness isn't about being alive. It's not about being human. It's about how strongly parts of a system work together. Under this view, consciousness exists on a spectrum. Most systems have almost none. Some have a little, a few have a lot. Biology happens to be very good at creating integrated systems, which is why conscious life appears there. But biology may not be the only way. Now zoom out even further. The universe itself builds complex structures at every scale. Atoms join to form molecules. Molecules form cells. Cells form organisms. Organisms form societies. At each level, simple parts combine into something more connected. And when scientists look at the universe on its larger scale, they see something surprising. Galaxies aren't spread out evenly. They form a massive structure called the cosmic web. Long strands of matter connect clusters of galaxies with large empty spaces in between. When scientists map this structure, it looks strikingly similar to neural networks in the brain. Dense clusters connected by long pathways, information and energy flowing through the system. Self-organizing patterns. This doesn't mean the universe has a brain. But it raises an interesting question. Why does nature keep using similar patterns at completely different scales? In the brain, these patterns support awareness. In the universe, they organize matter and energy. The purpose is different, but the structure looks familiar. Some scientists say this is coincidence. Others say it reflects deep rules about how efficient systems form. Nature tends to reuse patterns that work. Still, the resemblance invites curiosity. If consciousness depends on integrated information, and if large-scale systems integrate information in complex ways, could some form of awareness exist beyond biological life? Not thinking, not planning, not feeling emotions, just experience. Under this view, humans wouldn't be separate observers watching the universe from the outside. We would be part of it. Local areas where awareness becomes especially focused. Your thoughts would be tiny events inside a much larger system. Your emotions would be small ripples in a vast network. This idea can feel unsettling. It can also feel grounding. It suggests that consciousness isn't a strange accident. It's not something that appeared once and might never appear again. It might be a natural outcome of how reality organizes itself. That doesn't mean the universe has goals. It doesn't mean it has intentions. Awareness doesn't require a plan. It only requires experience. And experience might come in forms we can't imagine. Even if these ideas turn out to be wrong, they still matter. At the very least, it reminds us of something important. Consciousness exists, it comes from connection, and it may be far more woven into reality than we ever expected. Do you think consciousness is something only humans experience? Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there.